This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for listening, guys. We've got a busy one for you today, mainly focused on the basketball team as they picked up a pair of commitments to kick off this week. We'll cover those after a busy start to the week on the football side of things as well with a commitment for the Mustangs. We talked about that on the podcast on Tuesday, but this one focused a lot around the transfer portal and recruiting for Andy Enfield and his staff, as the portal window does close Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. That means that players have to send in that request to compliance. If they do want to transfer, they have 48 hours to submit the paperwork and get them into the database. So you could still see some transfers enter over the next couple of days for colleges around the country, but really it is winding down here. So with that, we will talk about the pair of commitments Andy Enfield and his staff added. But first, our friends at statusjet.com are there for you when it comes to planning out your trip, whether it's business, pleasure, family, friends, big plane, small plane, helicopter. They can get you there from point A to point B with a level of luxury that you would expect from a private jet charter company. Look, Dallas Love Field is a top 5 spot for private jets to fly in and out of. So especially if you're here local, they have options for you when it comes to acquiring a plane to get you from point A to point B, because they have built those connections here in Dallas and across the country, which is why we want to highlight a summer destination for you and family, friends to take a look at. And that is Bora Bora. It is the number one destination for private jet companies to fly in and out of when it comes to those tropical destinations. And obviously it takes a while to get there. It's hard to get to. Reach out to StatusJet and use that code PonyUpACC for a discount on a round-trip flight. Maybe it makes sense for you guys to fly this route when you're considering a trip like this. They also have lots of partners in Bora Bora that can help you get around with some activities in those beautiful waters. Can't wait to go one day. It's a bucket list place for just about anyone. So reach out to StatusJet and talk with them about how maybe you can make that happen this summer. As we dive into the transfer portal for SMU basketball, the portal window is closing, as I mentioned in the leadoff here, and that means that we'll have a finalized idea of what this roster for Andy Enfield will look like when it comes to the returning players. And SMU basketball is going to look different. I can tell you guys that much. We've seen numerous guys enter the portal and move on from the program. The guys that are on the way out include Zurich Phelps, who committed to Texas A&M, and you also have seen Mo and Jai, Xavier Foster in the front court, and then kind of the surprising news of the week in a way was Jaheim Hudson, the veteran forward who transferred from Georgia State to join Rob Lanier and his team, did enter the portal earlier this week, and so he wanted to go find a role that he could start in. And so maybe he follows Rob Lanier. Maybe he just finds a new destination, but he's not going to be back at SMU. Tyreek Smith, we've heard he's going to pursue professional opportunities, but he did enter the portal as well. So maybe he keeps the option of coming back for college open. And then to round out the backcourt entrance, Denver Anglin, who committed to Rice, and Ricardo Wright and Jalen Smith also entered the portal. So some changes there on the SMU basketball side of things, as they saw, by my count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys leave. You also have Samuel Williamson exhaust his eligibility. So that leaves 4 returners. And right now those are BJ Edwards, Chuck Harris in the backcourt. And then you have Keon Ambrose Hilton returning as well. And so this program, since they didn't fill that last scholarship spot, I was kind of catching myself there as we were talking about it, because I was like, wait, that's 9 + 3, 12. There's 13 scholarships. Who am I missing? Well, Rob Lanier and his staff did not fill that final scholarship for SMU this season. So That means BJ Edwards, Chuck Harris, Keon Ambrose Hilton are your returners as of now. And so you have Chance Puryear and Mitchell Holmes, the two 2024 signees, as your additions for the 2024 season. From the high school ranks as of now, we don't necessarily anticipate anybody else coming in to play for the Mustangs in the high school side of things, at least as of now. I think they would try to find a veteran guy or maybe somebody that they would develop on that side of things. But if you're looking here on YouTube, I mentioned Mitchell Holmes, Chance Puryear. They signed. They're done. They are signed, sealed, and delivered. And now you see at the bottom there the 4 transfers that SMU has, including Yohan Traore, who committed Tuesday evening, and Boopie Miller, who committed on Sunday from Wake Forest, one of SMU's new conference mates, jumping on board, or maybe it was Saturday, but the days are just running together for me. But Cario Oquendo and AJ George have been committed since earlier this month as well. So for SMU, you get multiple additions to your roster from the transfer ranks. That makes you feel a little bit better about this roster, particularly the backcourt. And Yohan Traore kind of kicked that door down when it came to the front court from the transfer portal side of things. And look, let's back up to Boopie Miller and his decision to jump on board with SMU. He's one of the top, combo point guards in the transfer portal, especially at the time of his commitment. He averaged 15.6 points per game this season, 2.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists a game for Wake Forest. He's from Chicago originally. He shot 36.9% from three-point range while starting all 35 games this season, and was on campus for an official visit this past weekend. And it was funny. I kind of got wind of this going into the weekend, and we had posted on the Pony Express that we were expecting a visitor for SMU, but we hadn't nailed it down yet. Well, one of our board posters and soon to be SMU student, Dean Rowski, who's going to be working for us actually On the Pony Express, is the one who got the scoop. One of his friends recognized Kevin Boopie Miller on campus, which is very impressive to just recognize a ACC point guard transfer on your campus. And so that was how the scoop kind of broke. And then from there, Boopie had kind of alluded to a commitment, and I checked around with some sources, and sure enough, he was jumping on board with the Mustangs. He came into Wake Forest last offseason after playing 2 years at Central Michigan. He was a standout there at Central Michigan as well. Look, he, for his career, has averaged 32.5 minutes per game, 14.7 points, 4.1 assists, 3.1 rebounds, and 1.3 steals per game. And he has shot 44.9% from the field in his career. So a really talented veteran point guard coming into SMU that will be able to immediately add value in that backcourt. And look, Zurich Phelps is a guy SMU wanted to keep. I mean, there's no way around that. But Boopie having 2 years to play, that is a nice piece to the puzzle for SMU, because Zurich Phelps did commit to Texas A&M. So he's staying in the state of Texas. He's going down to College Station to play in the SEC. Well, SMU already now has a guy in Boopie Miller who has played in the ACC. And he's done it at a high enough level that you've got to feel good about where you're headed with the backcourt with his addition. And so I like the pickup. It's funny. He's listed at 6 foot, but he is not that, I can assure you. He's a little bit smaller, and SMU has had success with smaller point guards in the past. So maybe he can, bring together some of that magic and make things happen there. A la Nick Moore years ago, who just made it into the SMU Hall of Fame. It was announced last month. So congrats to Nick Moore on that honor. He's back here in the Dallas area working at Melissa High School as an assistant coach. And who knows, maybe we see him on the hilltop at some point in a role as well. So Boopie Miller upgrades that backcourt. You now have two of the three backcourt additions as Power 5 transfers. Cario Quendo has done it at Georgia. He's done it at Oregon. His role, for whatever reason, changed at Oregon. But now you have two guys from the Power 5 ranks or high major ranks who have done it and who have shown that they can play at this level. And then you bring in A.J. George, who is a very impressive player from Long Beach State. I'm actually pretty high on A.J. George, and I kind of feel like he could have the trajectory of kind of like a Jaheim Hudson, but for the backcourt. Like when Jaheim moved up to SMU from Georgia State, I said, look, I really like this addition. I think he could contribute. And Jaheim did kind of find his footing at SMU and was able to really make things happen for this program. So I kind of feel the same about AJ George, and he has the size to play the two, play the three a little bit. 6'6", 190. He's played and won a lot of games in his basketball career in the college ranks. So the backcourt is, I don't want to say complete, because again, I feel like with the roster spots that they have available, they have 9 right now, to my knowledge, on board for the 2024-2025 season. So that leaves 4 spots, for this program. If my math is right there, 6 plus 3 is 9. So 4 spots available. And for SMU, I do really feel like they need to add a best available type of guard. But then what they'll need to do is they'll need to continue to address the front court, and they'll look to add a wing. And that would be, 2 or 3 right there. And then we'll see what else they bring in. But I do think that this staff has now found its footing. And there's no bigger example of that than with Yohan Traore, somebody who was silently committed to SMU for the last really week and a half or so plus. We had heard that they really felt good about where things stood for the 6'10", 6'11", 225-pound big man who originally hails from France, actually. So pretty cool there. Maybe he and I could chop it up about a little bit of Bordeaux wine or Paris or anything like that. And we can have him on the pod and talk about that. But Yohan Traore originally started his career at Auburn. He was a top 25 prospect in the country. He was the number 4 power forward in the nation. He originally prepped in the States in the Napa area. So nice little spot. Napa producing Brock Bowers in the first round of the NFL draft, and then hosting Yohan Traore for his high school career once he got over to the States. And that gave SMU their 4th transfer commitment. He committed Tuesday night and had interest from UCF, Arizona State, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, TCU, and others. He took a couple visits, I believe, including Arizona State, and he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. He played a little bit for Auburn. He played in 25 games, but didn't have that much of an impact minutes-wise and just on the score sheet as a highly touted transfer or highly touted high school addition for Auburn. And we know how good Bruce Pearl has built that program. So he leaves. He heads back to California, goes to UC Santa Barbara, where he averaged 14.5 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, and shot 58% from the field. And he started all 30 games and averaged 29 minutes. So he checked his boxes of improving his role and adding to that UC Santa Barbara program and contributing. And you see this now, I think. You see guys make a move and decide that, hey, I need to go somewhere else to get more of an opportunity on the court. And that's exactly what Yohan did. And it wasn't surprising to see him try to get back to the Power 5, the high major ranks. And now he's going to do that at SMU. And it's a massive piece to the puzzle for Andy Enfield and his staff. When you look at the front court now, you have Keon Ambrose Hilton as your lone returning big man. And he's a combo power forward who could complement Yohan Traore well. I'm intrigued to see where they go in the front court. We know that now that with Jaheim Hudson coming or leaving the program, they have to address the wing kind of 4-man spot, combo forward spot even more. And they're going to do that. And I'll give you guys a little bit of scoop. I don't do this often for our YouTube audience because it is behind our paywall at ontheponyexpress.com. But you can subscribe for just $1 and get 2 months of coverage. So all the recruiting for football this summer, intel into summer workouts, all of those things over the next couple months that are on, coming down the pipeline, you can get that for just $1 for 2 months when you use code SMU1. That's SMU the number 1 for $1. That gets you 2 months of ontheponyexpress.com. The big news is that this week SMU will host Matt Cross. And for those of you who don't follow basketball religiously, you'll probably say, wow, Matt Cross. All right. SMU bringing in a 6'6" small forward who played at UMass, and he's also played at Miami. He's played at Louisville. He's been around, but you want to know what he has done over the last couple of seasons is been very impressive for the Minutemen, starting 50 of 53 games that he's played in, and he was a key figure this season. 15.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, 3 assists per game, and he shot 54% from the field and contributed 32.9% from three-point range. He was a first-team Atlantic 10 pick for this season, and the Minutemen won 20 games for the first time since the 2013-14 season. So for Matt Cross, who, by the way, plays for Frank Martin, a very demanding coach, he'd be an upgrade in the athletic side of things for SMU at this spot that Jaheim Hudson has now, left. He was a former 4-star prospect that started his career at Louisville. He played in 28 games, 5.8 points, 3.9 rebounds, and half assist per game when he played for the Cardinals. And he played in 14 games for the Hurricanes, which is where he originally started his career. So this is now his third time in the portal. But this is a trend that we're starting to see with college basketball. These rosters are being recycled over and over and over. And one of our national writers, Eric Prisbell, wrote a story about it and how this is kind of the new norm. Guys start their career somewhere, drop down, or make a change. I mean, in Matt Cross's situation, he goes to Louisville, which we know was a complete train wreck when it comes to what happened with Kenny Payne. So that didn't work out, and so he ended up leaving and charting another course with UMass on his third school, and now wants to go back and play some high major basketball. So while you don't love to see these guys bouncing around everywhere, it's just a reality. And Iowa and Wisconsin hosted him for visits late last month, I should say. And then you've got USC, TCU, and many others beating down the door for Matt Cross. And, SMU needs him. This is a guy that can immediately help upgrade the position and make this team better. And so that's why they're bringing him in. They're bringing him in to make a strong push for him. And so we'll see how it goes. We'll keep you guys updated at ontheponyexpress.com. So a little behind-the-scenes scoop there for you guys who are on our YouTube channel. We broke the news. It's not been out there. SMU's hosting Matt Cross this week. Big news for the Mustangs and a big opportunity for Andy Enfield and his staff. If they can get Matt Cross, that gives them 10 scholarship players for the 2024-2025 season. And you could argue that outside of Zurich Phelps, you've upgraded every spot. And that would be a good thing. Like every particular roster spot that you've seen departures, you've upgraded for the ones you've replaced. And they still are hunting for a big man. And I think they're going to have success bringing in another difference maker to pair with Yohan Traore in the front court. I think they're going to be able to do it. And then if they get Matt Cross as well, you're feeling a little bit better, but you still probably need to address that position. You have Mitchell Holmes coming in. You have Chance Puryear, who are kind of forward-ish players. Mitchell can play, the 4, help out there. Chance can play a little bit of the 3 with his size, although he'll need a weight room. This roster is I think, starting to trend towards being competitive in year one of the ACC, which is what SMU wanted. I don't think we're sitting here, and this is just Monday morning quarterbacking, but I don't think we're sitting here if Rob Lanier is still the coach. And yes, a lot of this roster would be back. And yes, this roster won 20 games, but it's also a roster that did it in a watered down AAC and didn't win many games that were against good opponents. So these players that have left SMU, best of luck to them. They were going to have a major step up when it comes to the ACC this season. And it's hard to, when you have a veteran roster, really think that they're going to make that big of a jump, in my opinion, with much of the roster coming back. And there were going to be some changes, but in reality, I don't know how the roster building would have panned out, but you wouldn't have seen the overall upgrades that have come in my opinion, for this roster if not for change. And that means bringing in Andy Enfield and his staff, who have now completed his coaching staff, by the way. He has assistants that include Kirk Karras, Eric Mobley, and then they hired Dana Ford, former Missouri State head coach, to be an assistant. And that also goes with Chris Kapko, the assistant or the associate head coach, I should say. And they have Jay Morris as well on this coaching staff as an assistant. So the coaching staff is complete. They will still be able to add off-court people, which we'll be keeping a close eye on. But overall, this is a strong coaching staff that SMU has put together for this first season of ACC play. And we'll be keeping an eye on who else they add to the coaching staff off the court as well. So you know that Matt Cross is coming. You know they're still targeting a big man. You know they're targeting best available. This is a time where the portal is winding down in terms of players being able to enter. So if you look at the transfer portal, 31%, I believe it was, of the nearly 1,100 players, I think, that are in the portal have committed. So there's some talent out there. Some of the top players have already made their decisions and made their commitments, but there are still talented players out there. And I'll be interested to see where SMU goes for some of these final spots, because they do have some options out there in the transfer portal that they are working on. And the big one that I would say that I would love to see SMU land is RJ Jones, Kansas State shooting guard. We talked about a best available type of player. And if they could find a way to bring home this former Denton area product and native, this would be a really nice addition for SMU, because he's a former top 100 player and he entered the portal earlier, or I guess now last month in April. And he was just a true freshman for Kansas State and came off the bench. He averaged 2.4 points per game. And while he shot 29.4% from the field in 8.9 minutes per game, he is somebody that is really valued as a high ceiling player moving forward in his college career. And he's a part of a group that has left Kansas State. Jerome Tang had a lot of momentum after that first season and turned things around quickly. But now there's been a little bit of an exodus from the program. But TCU, SMU, Texas A&M, Virginia Tech are among those that, according to Tobias Bass of The Athletic, are in the mix early on. And SMU would love to upgrade that backcourt. And in particular, I talked about a best available. It would be nice moving forward if they could find a player that, when a lot of these veteran players like a Chuck Harris, like a AJ George or a Cario Quendo move on and are done playing college basketball, that they can have groomed through this season and really hand them the keys to multiple years of playing. And so RJ Jones would make a ton of sense for SMU when it comes to the transfer portal. And again, he is now really starting to pick up the pace with his recruiting, and SMU is among those pursuing him. So with that, guys, I don't have too much more to add. I think I guess I'll close with just kind of my current thought on the team overall and where things stand. There's still time for this basketball roster to come together. It's not like football that I feel like you have to be done by late May. As much as they want to be, you have opportunities to add talent because a lot of these programs say, look, we want you here for June, but really you've got to come back for July for sure. And so you're going to see players stretch transfer recruitments into June. And if that's the case, and SMU can find some of these best available type of players to add, maybe that works out. So it's very different than football, which I think, and I said this on Tuesday's pod, that I think you want to finalize your roster in the coming week to 10 days. And I do think you'll see SMU get to that point with some of these guys that they are targeting in the transfer portal. And that's on the football side of things. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. When it comes to the basketball side of things, this can stretch. And I don't think it'd be too surprising to see that happen that way. So we'll be here to track it for you guys every step of the way. But I like the additions. I don't look at any of them, I would say, and really scoff at them. I think all of them have scored double digits in their careers at certain points. You know, Cario Quendo did it at Georgia, was a very solid contributor there before leaving. You have AJ George, who's done it. You have Boopie Miller, who's done it at the ACC level. And you have Yohan Traore, who did it this past season for UC Santa Barbara. So they have a nice mix now of high school players that they can bring in and develop. And they have a lot of veteran guys coming in the transfer portal that can contribute over the next couple years in particular as kind of stopgaps for the high school recruiting that Andy Enfield and his staff really want to do. And a quick update, Ryan Hampton is the first reported offer for this coaching staff. And if his name sounds familiar, that's because he's the younger brother of RJ Hampton, who SMU recruited back in the day, who is the son of Rod Hampton, who played for SMU back in the day. So another legacy being recruited by the Mustangs now. He picked up that offer from Coach Mobley and Coach Andy Enfield. And look, there's a lot of people that think that Ryan Hampton is going to be the best out of this group of brothers. He's been on USA Basketball throughout his time playing. He's a 2027, so a long way away. But like Andy Enfield said, he's building something here. He's not going away quickly. And Auburn, Cincinnati, and Arizona State have also offered him early on. He's a dynamic player. He's kind of viewed as a guard prospect. He's already 6'6", so just a rising star in the recruiting ranks. And he'll really see his recruitment take off. He's prepping at Rockwall Heath, I believe. So keep an eye on that one. SMU just offered a legacy. So the high school recruiting also starting to pick up for Andy Enfield and his staff. So with that, guys, want to do a quick reminder before we head out. Head to statusjet.com. Talk to David Henry and his team. They've got options for you guys when it comes to big jets, small jets, helicopters, getting you from point A to point B, where you can elevate your travel experience, whether it be for business, for fun, for an SMU game day. Status Jet is where luxury meets the sky. Tailor your journey to the next SMU away game with unparalleled elegance. That's all thanks to our friends at Status Jet. Use the code PonyUpACC for a discount on a round-trip flight, or just mention on theponyexpress.com. David Henry and his team can help you out, and that's why we implore you guys, head to statusjet.com. Call them as well, 866-849-4248, and get more details on what they can do for you through all their contacts in the private jet space. So hope you guys enjoyed this basketball edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. We'll have all your coverage at ontheponyexpress.com as the transfer portal recruiting window continues beyond just the closing of guys entering which is Wednesday night at midnight. So thanks for listening to this edition of the podcast. Hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel or wherever you catch the podcast at. And we hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU_on3 and on Instagram at on3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.